With the latest Express entry draws higher than 500 points, you need a CLB 9 on your CELPIP test. No wonder you're feeling frustrated. And while getting a CLB 9 is not easy, I promise you that it's not impossible. We've got over 200 5-star reviews on Google to prove it. Today I'm going to show you 5 highly effective tips to boost your speaking band score on the CELPIP test. Hi, I'm Maria, and I'm a Level 3 Prometric Testing Certified Canadian CELPIP expert. Now, what on earth does that even mean? That means that CELPIP Canada has approved me to coach you on how to get the band scores you need on your upcoming CELPIP test. Now, here's the good news. Getting a CLB 9 or higher on your CELPIP test is not about memorizing a bunch of words. In this video, I'm going to talk about some simple tips that you can use to help ease your test anxiety so that you can perform better on your upcoming test. So here we go. Let's play a game. Which of these 2 responses do you think scored better on their test? Response number 1. Hello, my friend. I know you're having a very busy day, but I would like to talk to you about a picture that I am looking at. I will do my best to describe it to you so that you can get an idea as to what is going on in this classroom. Versus this. I'm looking at a really busy elementary school classroom full of children misbehaving. Tip number 1, get right to it. While yes, it is super important to have a brief introduction to your responses, you want to keep them just like that, brief. Remember, for most of your tasks, your examiner wants to hear the meat of your response. They're not just assessing your introduction. And your response time is very short, only about 60 to 90 seconds. So you don't want to waste most of your time giving really long introductions. Tip number 2, get to know your test environment. The CELPIP speaking test environment is unique and different from other tests like the IELTS test in that you're going to be in a room with other test takers taking their speaking test at the same time. They're going to be speaking right next to you while you're trying to think of ideas, and that can be pretty distracting. I've had a lot of students come back from their tests saying that they couldn't focus or think of ideas because the person next to them was speaking so loudly. So my tip for you is to be aware that you are going to be in a test environment with other test takers taking their speaking test at the same time, speaking loudly right next to you. You're not going to be in a private setting like you would be on the IELTS speaking test. I also encourage you to visit your test center before your test day. That way you can familiarize yourself with the test environment. If you struggle with test anxiety, this can really help soothe your central nervous system so that you can get an idea as to what your test day is going to be like. You can also ask your test center what kind of tools you're going to receive, like pen and paper, and what to expect on your test day in terms of security. Another way to think about this, to reframe this, is that when you're out and about in everyday life, at a coffee shop, at the mall, or at a supermarket, there are always going to be people around you. Very rarely do you just talk by yourself. You're always going to be sitting next to somebody or waiting in line next to somebody. So it's totally natural for you to be speaking in English with somebody speaking right next to you. So in essence, the CELPIP test environment is a pretty real-life scenario. So this leads me to my next tip, tip number 3. Pretend that you're speaking directly to somebody. For some of the CELPIP speaking tasks, you're going to be instructed to speak directly to somebody. This might be a friend, a family member, or say a manager. This is really where you have to put your creative thinking cap on and pretend that you are actually in that real life scenario. Imagine that you're actually talking to the person. The more realistic and natural you sound in your response, the better you will do on your test. And the more you focus on having a conversation with the person in the question, the less you're going to be distracted by the person next to you. Tip number 4, practice with a timer. One of the biggest challenges of the CELPIP speaking test is that you have to manage your own time. Depending on the task, you'll have between 30 to 60 seconds to prepare and 60 to 90 seconds to speak. Now keep in mind, for your prep time, that includes the time you have to read and understand the question and to think of all of your ideas. Because of this, it's so important that you prepare for your test with a timer. You can use a simple timer or a stopwatch like on your smartphone. I also strongly encourage practicing from authentic, realistic practice tests off of the CELPIP website. They do have 2 free practice tests, and if you enroll in my CLB 9 CELPIP course, we also include 2 of the official paid practice tests in our course. My CLB9 CELPIP course includes over 50 sample questions, responses, MP3 audios, and 2 official paid practice tests so that you can practice for your CELPIP speaking test at home. To learn more about my CELPIP self-study course, check out the description below. Tip number 5, recognize the value of non-timed practice. So we just talked about the value of timed practice for your CELPIP speaking test, but we also have to talk about the importance of non-timed practice for your CELPIP speaking test. It's so important to practice speaking English in your everyday life. A lot of students and test takers come to me complaining about why the CELPIP test includes a timer. And yes, I do agree that having to speak with a timer on the test is not very natural, it's definitely uncomfortable, and it can cause test anxiety. However, the CELPIP test was designed that way for a reason. In real life, we aren't given 3 minutes to pause after somebody's asked us a question to think about what we're going to say. In real life, when somebody asks a question, we're not given 3 minutes to pause to think of our ideas. That would be pretty awkward, right? So, in essence, the CELPIP test is really assessing your ability to speak confidently and effectively in real life scenarios. That's why I also suggest that you get out there and start speaking to as many Canadians and immigrant friends of yours in real life as much as you can. The more you realize that making mistakes is part of the learning process when you're learning a new language, the more you're going to relax and have fun while you're learning English. The less scared you're going to be when somebody asks you a question, and the less time it's going to take for you to speak up when you have an idea. Then suddenly, the timer is not going to seem so scary on the CELPIP speaking test. No matter what, I promise that if you invest in your studies and you put the work into your English and you have fun while you're doing it, you can get a CLB9 or higher on your upcoming CELPIP test. It might not come overnight, but if you put the work in, you can do it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your friends who are preparing for their upcoming test. And if you need help preparing for your upcoming CELPIP, IELTS, or PTE core test, or even the TEF exam, get in touch with our team here of certified Canadian language experts at English for Canada. And if you want to improve your overall pronunciation, we also offer general English classes and even French classes here at English for Canada because we want you to feel totally confident communicating here in Canada. And like we always say here at English for Canada, if we believe in you, you have to too. See you in our next video.